Back in the 1970s, the Israeli government took in as refugees a few hundred Vietnamese families of Chinese descent, part of the hundreds of thousands of so-called boat people who were forced out of that country by the newly installed communist regime. Now, the number of Vietnamese of Vietnamese descent today also numbers the offspring of mixed couples of Vietnamese who have since married Israeli citizens. An event was recently held here in Tel Aviv to connect Vietnamese Israelis with their language and their roots, and also maybe inspire them one day to become teachers of that heritage. Sarah Shalala has the story.
As the Vietnamese say, one can do nothing without education. But as much as that rings true, this event in Tel Aviv isn't necessarily a celebration of education as much as it's about celebrating those doing the educating.
To be a teacher in Vietnam is something very, very important. It is maybe one of the most important occupations. All over Vietnam it is celebrated. Even in the most remote villages, the villages comes with gifts to the teachers.
But you see, this can be anyone who teaches.
Mothers are the first teachers, so we celebrate at the same time mothers and teachers at all levels in Vietnam.
In Vietnam, education is a top priority, and with teaching such a sought-after career, there's special programs for the Israeli Vietnamese diaspora living in Israel to preserve their mother tongue, encouraging those who aren't teaching to teach mainly the Vietnamese language.
Each country around the world can send two members of the diaspora, the Vietnamese community, to join the program in Vietnam for 2 weeks, and they are trained with pedagogical methodologies, and they also can join some of the simulation and some of the practices.
These Vietnamese beginner language simulations are bringing inspiration to the younger diaspora living in Israel.
We really want to see speaking our language and talking with our family.
I want to speak to my grandparents in Vietnamese and to my whole family that is in Vietnam, even to my mom.
They are born in Israel, so they need to learn the mother language. They can communicate with the grandparents and family in Vietnam.
And through language and cooperation, there's a building of stronger ties between Israel and Vietnam.
Israel and Vietnam, we cooperate a lot in education, especially on technological education, the STEM model. People-to-people exchange is crucial, because they can build a bridge easily.
And part of that is to actually approach kids in the Vietnamese diaspora, connect them back to the culture, preserve traditional Vietnamese identity, encourage the next generation to maybe one day become teachers and inspire familiarity between the two cultures.
Vietnam is a very exotic, very mysterious place for Israelis, and also Israel for the Vietnamese. I think what we see here is really another way to bring together the two societies. So we see more and more of this, not only economic connections, but also cultural connections.
Sarah Shalala, i24 News.
In a beautiful country, Vietnam, worth a visit.